The Central Asian Report is a program about the ongoing geopolitical trends and the panorama of the present-day realities in Central Asia.
Politics, economics and culture, events, trends and people, all this on one territory. Hello, you're watching the Central Asian Report in today's program. A common task, the UN program in Central Asia. Aidyn Aimbetov, a down-to-earth hero. Mes Syrnai, the revival of the bagpipe of the steppes. And coming right up, headlines from Central Asia. Turkmenistan will take part in the International Specialized Expo 2017 exhibition that will take place in Astana in a year and a half. The agreement was signed in Ashgabat. To remind, the slogan of the upcoming exhibition is Future Energy. In connection with this, the plan is for Turkmenistan to showcase its achievements in the sphere of renewable energy resources as well as green technologies, which are more environmentally friendly. From January 1st, 2016, passports with biometric data will be introduced in Uzbekistan. All the country's citizens are required to get the new format of their document before this date. Otherwise, a person may face administrative sanctions in the form of a fine. To note, the campaign of switching to biometric passports was launched in Uzbekistan practically 5 years ago. In the last 1.5 years, it was impossible to leave the country or get an international visa without the renewed document. 70 years of existence and more than 20 years of presence in Central Asia. This is the period during which the members of the United Nations have been attempting to jointly resolve global problems. High-profile meetings associated with this anniversary have already been held. Whilst tracking the results, we have gathered the information about the work of this organization in Central Asia in one report, which we bring to you now. Two years ago, Osama came to Kazakhstan from Syria as a refugee. When we came here, it was cold. We turned to the Red Crescent and they helped us, gave us shoes, and helped with the money to buy warm clothes. All these clothes saved this man who is unaccustomed to the cold weather, and the despair, while considering his situation, is fully understandable. Overall, Osama was not just sheltered here from the cold. We received financial aid, given money, medicaments. At any moment, we can call the Red Crescent and always receive help. For already 20 years, in collaboration with the United Nations, the Red Crescent has been providing aid to people in Kazakhstan who were forced to leave their home country. They help not only financially and with clothing, but also with paperwork and by offering consultations. All this is organized within the framework of a specially established program. This is done with the participation of the United Nations, which finances this program and offers a great help to refugees. On average, the UN program offers assistance to around 700 refugees annually, and this is just through their program in Kazakhstan. At the moment, around 20 funds, agencies and other structures of the United Nations operate in the country. The organization operates not only in Kazakhstan, but also in the neighboring Central Asian republics. For example, a children's fund has been functioning in Kyrgyzstan since 1994.
UNICEF works in many different areas, but particularly related to social sector, such as health, education, and social protection. But we also work in the area of justice.
In 2010, UNICEF was the first to support the establishment of a center that offers legal defense, psychological assistance, and prophylactic measures against violence against children. This center was established in Bishkek with the support of the city's mayor's office. They allocated a building, and UNICEF conducted the full repairs and trained the professionals. Tajikistan also has a UN representative organization. The Food and Agricultural Organization is quite influential in the country. The Food and Agriculture Organization is known to all the citizens of Tajikistan. In the 90s, we conducted vaccinations of almost all the cattle. For many years, the FAO has been working jointly with the Association of Veterinarians. Over the years of cooperation, many programs were realized. Through joint efforts, swine and bird flu were treated here, and advanced programs of cattle feed were tested.
С 2008 года Ассоциация ветеринаров реализовала более...
Since 2008, the Association of Veterinarians has realized more than 50 projects of the Food and Agriculture Organization in cooperation with it. The Veterinary Service and the Association of Veterinarians have been operating thanks to the FAO.
Таджикистана существует и работает.
All the countries of Central Asia are current members of the UN, and in each country, the organization helps resolve the most pressing problems in the spheres of the economy, science, culture, human rights, environmental security, and others. And every year the number of programs increases, partially because there are still problems to be resolved, and partially because the UN cooperation with the funds and organization in Central Asia is expanding. The man who fell from the sky. The history of humanity recounts 544 people like astronaut Aidyn Aimbetov. For decades he prepared for the most important launch of his life and became a legend after 10 days in space. Our correspondent in Astana spent a day with the national hero to find out who is this man in the spacesuit. It is more usual to see Kazakhstan's third astronaut Aidyn Aimbetov in a spacesuit or a military uniform. But after the memorable September flight to space, he's also recognized in regular clothes. The majority of people do not know about the work of the astronaut when they're not out in space. With regards to flight preparation, there are trainings, the notorious human centrifuge, and other tests. And as it turns out, the rest of the time is dedicated to routine office work. Because I spend a third of my life in the office, perhaps the biggest part of my life, that is why I try to make it somewhat cozy and warm. Aidyn Aimbetov works at the National Education Space Monitoring Center. Here the data received from the satellite about Kazakhstan's territories is decoded and analyzed. This data is used by the Ministry of Emergency Situations, the Ministry of Agriculture, and also for teaching our students at the Eurasian Institute, and as data sources for masters and final theses. The working day is nearing noon, and according to Aidyn's schedule, which is very strict, it is time for lunch. Behind the table, the topic of the Dastarhan experiment that Aidyn Aimbetov conducted in space comes up. His aim was to test sublimated traditional Kazakh dishes in space conditions, but many people misinterpreted this.
Рассказывали из СМИ, что казахстанский космонавт на борт.
In the media, it was printed that Kazakhstan's astronaut took beshbarmak onto the International Space Station. The astronaut is flying out and offering beshbarmak, kaza, karta. Traditional Kazakh hospitality is known across the world, but at the same time we have to raise the status of our scientists. This is the product that was created using the latest scientific research. It is necessary not only for our alpinists, as well as military personnel who go on long expeditions.
Не только, допустим, нашим спортсменам, альпинистам, также нашим, допустим, силовым структурам, которые выходят в дальние экспедиции.
Aidyn Aimbetov proposed to spend the rest of the working break time by going for a walk. We're going to the Palace of Peace and Accord. By the way, astronaut Aimbetov drives the car with the same sense of calmness as he talks and walks. On our way, we get another insight. It turns out that during his time in space, the colonel stayed in touch not only with the Flight Control Center, but also with his family.
Я практически каждый день связывался со своей семьей.
I communicated with my family almost every day, called them. At the moment, thanks to the latest technologies, it is now possible to communicate with one's own family back home.
Имеется возможность ведения связи с семьей.
According to the astronaut, this temporary separation, not just with the family, but with planet Earth, seriously changed his worldview. From the International Space Station, regular life and its values are seen in a different light.
Когда пребываешь на орбите, когда пребываешь в космосе и видишь...
When you're in outer space and see that we're just these tiny specks in this great space, then you understand what we really should be more tolerant. Problems like money, power, reputation are no longer as important, and to the foreground come the higher values. The most important are peace, accord, and family.
Основное это должно быть мир, согласие, семья наша.
At the moment, after the completion of the scientific program by Aimbetov, researchers are working with obtained results from the experiments. Then they will develop a new program for the next space flight. It is not excluded that Aidyn Aimbetov will once again be sent into outer space, all in order to get his country closer to its ambitious goal, to become one of the top 10 space powers in the world.
В Казахстане презентовали тюркский музыкальный инструмент.
A Turkish music instrument was showcased in Kazakhstan, and this is the case when something that is new is actually that is well forgotten old. An instrument that looks a lot like a bagpipe was considered to be lost, but Kazakhstani masters have reconstructed it by using middle-aged techniques. Our correspondent brings us the report.
Волынку на новый лад в репортаже нашего корреспондента.
At the Museum of Traditional Kazakh Instruments, a new item is being tested. A wind instrument with a rich sound is definitely calling for the role of a solo instrument, but for now is barely able to join the harmony, and is even posing difficulties for the musician. You have to blow all the time and push the air out, and then blow again. There's this mechanism of circulation. In terms of its construction, the method of playing as well as the sound, this instrument strongly resembles a bagpipe. But unlike the polyphonal European counterpart, it produces only two types of sounds, the melody and the tone. The earliest allusions to the Kazakh bagpipe go back to the era of the Kazakh Khanat. However, this instrument is of Turkic origins. For example, the Crimean Tatars still use it. But in Kazakhstan, for many years, it was forgotten and even considered to be forever lost. One of the main goals was to recreate this instrument. For us, the most important task was to recreate the ancient sound. It took us 2 years to do exactly this. A lot of time was dedicated to gathering historical information and analyzing it. People in Kazakhstan named this bagpipe as Jelbuaz, but during reconstruction it was named differently, Mes Syrnai.
Mes – это некий сосуд, в котором хранится.
Mes is a sort of a vessel where butter and meat are stored. It is made out of leather. This musical instrument is also made of leather. It actually looks like this vessel, or mes. And Syrnai, as I've already mentioned, is the definition of a wind instrument.
Сырнай, как я говорил, что это определение вообще духовых музыкальных инструментов.
It is interesting that an instrument similar to the Turkish bagpipe has been exhibited at the Museum of Kazakh Folk Instruments for many years. But there is a cunning ploy of the museum. This instrument is a prop. It was created for exhibiting and not for playing. That is why it is impossible to play any harmony or melody on it. It took around 3 months of work in the master's shop for the Mes Syrnai to produce a sound. Azamat Bakia is the very person who was the first to produce a sound of the Mes Syrnai. Azamat is a third-year student of a conservatory. Before, he could not even imagine that his hands would be so skilled at working with the instrument at the shop. I am a musician. I have never worked with machine tools. I had a great interest in making musical instruments, to experiment, and so I had to learn how to use these tools. Azamat used ancient techniques and materials and then perfected them. Azamat no longer remembers the number of trial versions that he had to make. According to him, it is important that he was able to make this one which sang. And now the most important is to capture the listeners' hearts. At the Museum of Kazakh Folk Instruments, it is said that many instruments await their revival from the bonds of forgotten history. And that means that new musical discoveries await.
На этом все.
You're watching the Central Asian Report. Until next time on Kazakh TV.